What's up, y'all? Welcome back. It's your boy, Brother Phil, soul of a nerd, doing reviews, talking about today, continuing with the series Falcon and Winter Soldier on Marvel MCU channel, or I guess the Marvel section of Disney Plus. Marvel Studios, MCU, all that good stuff, synonymous with each other now. And here we are, talking about another episode of, actually, this is episode 4 of 6. So after this, we've only got 2 more. That's kind of crazy. So here we are. Again, I'm Brother Phil. This is my channel, Soul of a Nerd. Please check me out, my other videos, and subscribe, click like, share the video, share the channel, and leave a comment when we're all said and done here. To be honest, this could be a pretty short review on my end, as I've seen it twice now. I watched it, I believe it was Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. It was released on Friday. Today is actually Monday, so I watched it Friday, and then no, I'm sorry, it was released Friday. I watched it Saturday, and I ended up watching it again yesterday because my niece is a she's a Marvel head, DC. She's a nerd like me. Oh, and my daughter, really. Both my nieces, one of them is more into it than the other one. And my daughter, she has not caught up on the show yet. So um, she's a busy working 19-year-old and has a social life and stuff. So anyway, and my niece is 18, well, soon to be 18. So anyway, they all got to finally catch up. Well, really, they only got through episode 1. It's a busy day yesterday. Niece is getting ready for prom, so we were all together, so to speak, um, with her doing a little bit of her prom uh, attire shopping. So they stopped by, like I said, both my nieces, to watch the show. We only got through episode 1 for them anyway, but so now I'm thinking about it. No, I have not seen it twice. I've only seen it once. Anyway, either way, the point is, I was thinking as I thought about the episode when I finished watching it Saturday, was this is the episode I would basically call, in my own terms, the predictability episode. So let me get this out of the way. I enjoyed the episode, but quite frankly, this was the most predictable episode of, so far, of the 9 WandaVision episodes and now 4 Falcon and Winter Soldier episodes. It was pretty predictable. So, that is, most of the time predictability is not a bad thing for me. But again, maybe it's being spoiled by WandaVision and its twists and turns, or just whatever you may want to call it. Basically, predictability in this case, it was a little bit much of it, and that was a little bit of a drawback for me. So let's talk about some of those things. I think the most predictable thing. Oh, this is very spoiler. All my reviews are spoiler when it comes to these shows. So, especially since I'm talking about them 3 days after they're released. But I think the thing that we all were anticipating ever since, I would say episode 2, pretty much, once you start seeing how John Walker has a little bit of insecurity or inferiority complex, and uh, but very confident and cocky almost, but also, convicted and feeling like he really wants to be the symbol, of Captain America. Like, good intentions, and I think I've probably said this in another review. It's good intentions, but you see a little bit of over ambition maybe there, or seems like some potential for some things to get a little skewed. And hey, we got it, the beginning of it anyway, in episode 4. So I think that was predictable that we all saw his a little bit of unraveling and downward spiral coming with each progressive episode. So I can't really knock that as a predictability point, because I think, you know, some things are hinted at on purpose and you are expecting them. Um, I think the other part of that, though, which is even a step further in that predictability, was that he was going to take the serum. So again, maybe everybody should have known that, so maybe there's nothing to really um, frown upon with that. And I'm not saying that I am. I guess it's like I said just a few minutes ago. If you get so many predictable moments, well, then now they kind of all are hitting you at the same time. Unfortunately, whether if it was a little predictability spread out, it wouldn't feel like you were being hit with so much predictability. And maybe again, maybe that was done on purpose, and it's kind of a storytelling or show device. I know Malcolm Spellman is the showrunner, and those kind of things could come back on him, so to speak. I don't think he's that experienced in doing it, so maybe those are the kind of things you think about how a producer or showrunner operates. Like, what are those things, decisions, and responsibilities that make their role so, like, why is that role even important in the first place, or what is the significance of that role? And that might be one of them. It's like the person who would dictate when certain plot points come up or in each episode. So if you wanted to throw a bunch of plot points into one episode, then it's kind of like, well, yeah, you in a way busted your load. It's a little graphic, but shot your load, or you put all your eggs in one basket. All those little cliches and colloquialisms. Sometimes that can be, especially with a 6 episode series. Maybe that's it too, because now that it's really dawned on me, as I just said, that we only have basically 2 more episodes. Like, it's probably going to be a lot of rushed activity in these next 2 episodes. I'm kind of curious because a lot hasn't really happened. Like, it's like a lot has, but I'm starting to think this is going to feel like a series that we needed 9 episodes of, instead of 6, because they got a lot to kind of wrap up in 2 episodes, in my opinion, just based on what I've been watching. Maybe you disagree. I don't know. It just feels, because I've said before, probably in the last review, that like episode 3, it felt pretty kind of Netflixy to me, like Marvel Netflix, in my opinion. And those were usually 40-minute to hour episodes, but you had 13 of them, and then I believe it was either Punisher or Daredevil season 3 where they bounced it back to 10. So it was like almost like they finally figured out, after doing 2 seasons of Daredevil, what was it, 2 seasons of Jessica Jones, a season of Luke Cage or whatever, that 13 might have been a little much. Speaking of, I know this is totally unrelated, but I just gave myself an inspiration. I am going to go back and watch Luke Cage season 2 just as like a retrospect, because that's kind of a forgotten season in a lot of ways in my mind. I'm just thinking out loud, because Luke Cage season 1 is very memorable, but season 2 was it was a mixed bag in terms of reception. So it would be interesting to go back and look at it. I haven't watched, what is it, like 3 years? Yeah, I think 2018 when that came out. It's been almost 3 years. It'll be cool to look back on it and see how I feel about it. Hey, and I'll probably maybe I'll do a I don't know if I could do a whole series season review, or maybe even do episode by episode. I probably will do something like that. That would be cool. Anyway, um, because I really didn't. I was so focused on movies, when I first started this channel, and it's only been like 2 years. Um, so let's get back to talking about episode 4. Uh, so him taking the serum was, I knew that was going to happen. Um, the way, I also often say predictability is definitely fine when as long as the payoff or the way the predictable moment plays out can be something fresh. And I think they did a good job with that, the setup of that. But let me go into the other predictable moments, and then I'll come back. The other predictable moment was, and again, I think I said this at the end of my last video. If not, I know I was in a chat, chat, do they call them chat board, chat room? They still call them, I don't know. I was in the chat section on a YouTuber, John Campia, if you're familiar with him, and they were doing the his open spoiler discussion for episode 3. And I made the point that I truly felt with the end of episode 3 when it actually got a pronunciation on her name as Io. It's spelled Ayo, pronounced Io instead of Ao. Winter Soldier Bucky called her that a couple times. So when she showed up at the end, I was just like, well, what I can see happening in episode 4 is because Sam and Bucky are trying to kind of hold on to Zemo a little longer because they have use for him. Dora Milaje wants him. They don't care about any other agenda. They need this man to pay for killing their king. I felt like there's going to be, not a fight of animosity or malice, but a fight of, hey, we got to defend what we're trying to do. You got to defend what you're trying to do. No hard feelings, sort of tussle. There we go. It's a good word. Tussle between the Dora Milaje and Sam and Bucky. And that's the first predictability. But then there's a third predictability within that, and that is within this little scuffle or tussle, Zemo's going to slip away. Like I said, pretty much, if I didn't say that at the end of this video, I typed this word for word that there's going to be a little scuffle between the Dora Milaje, Sam, and Bucky, and Zemo's going to slip away because of that. In this chat board, and that happened, like note for note. um, then seemed like there was one other predictable moment that I had, because I thought it was 4 that I had. Dang it. Anyway, maybe I'll think of the other one. Um, hmm, wow. It had something to do with Zemo. Okay, well, there's 3. There is a 4th one. Anyway. So let's talk about those moments, because those were, essentially those were the highlights of the of the episode, in my opinion. Um, John Walker. Let's go back to him. This guy is I mean, if he was written and casted and intended to be he almost is like Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight, in that the you see the signs of a guy who is, who again has the right intentions, but he's a little hot-headed, a little cocky, and it's like if you piss him off, he could go the wrong way. I mean, that's oversimplifying it, but if he gets the wrong motivation because he thinks he's so right, whatever he does, he's going to feel like he's right, even if it's wrong. Um, so it kind of reminded me a little of Harvey Dent in that respect. That we see his frustration with being Captain America and not getting his props. The fact that he's thought he was a highly trained soldier, an elite soldier, and yet he's pretty, you know, pedestrian compared to Winter Soldier and even Falcon, who has no serum. And I mean, he's just a guy, but he's highly trained now, and he's got just battle experience, I guess, when you've been dealing with the Avengers. So, in that sense, you see he's a little jealousy on his part, and his sidekick, Battlestar, it's not. Some of their conversations are actually kind of interesting. You know what I mean? They do. I think they do a good job of giving you these guys perspective. Again, that they're really just trying to be patriotic, trying to be good guys. But they really are. They're in over their head. They're out of their league in their thinking. Um, Mainly because they are dealing with super soldiers. It's like they they're trying to apply the fact that they are so in that you get it from a human perspective. They're just thinking, I mean, we've done stuff like this. We take out bad guys, whatever. You're not afraid of violence, strategy, conflict resolution, and all that stuff. But you're dealing with some super soldiers and the flag smashers. I mean, let's face it, they're carrying on some borderline terroristic behaviors. Um, so their little conversations and sidebars are kind of interesting, and you listen to them, and you're kind of listening like, man, y'all just don't understand. Y'all are so in over your heads, but you have such naivete about what it is you're doing. So, but yeah, they got their uniforms. They feel like, hey, we've been given this mantle. Well, and it's like we now, I guess. But John Walker's like, I've been given this mantle. This means something. And Battlestar being his sidekick, yeah, he's like, yeah, it does. And I'm here for you. We in it together, which plays very significantly into the end of the episode. Um, the let me quickly talk about this Flag Smashers. They're not the most um, compelling antagonists, but again, this is a grounded show, and it's meant to give you a pocket, a look at some ground level, less dynamic, cosmic, epic proportion villains and anti-heroes and antagonists, which every whether you're DC or Marvel, if you're building a universe, you got to be able to do that. You got to constantly give some of this and then some of that. Case in point, I just talked about Netflix. That's all you saw with Jessica Jones, um, Luke Cage, Daredevil, you know what I mean, The Punisher. Whereas, Iron Fist was a little more mystic, I guess, in to a degree, and I appreciated that, even though the show is very forgettable. It had some moments, but it's not a show I would love to see it done over again, basically recast it. I mean, if they could have recast and get used every script they had, but just I don't know, casting was a problem. But and it could have been better as far as the storylines. But yeah, um, so yeah, in that sense, the Flag Smashers, and it makes sense in just terms of telling this story of what a post snap and post blip return of people is like. And I think once you really start grasping that, and I think this is the type of show that needs replay value to really be able to appreciate the subtleties of the story, of the premise of the show. For some, for me, I'm just speaking for myself. Some people are like, "Hey, I've been in on it from jump." It's just there are times where it feels like sometimes I do have to be like, why is this important again? Just because, although Carly is a pretty compelling character and actress, Um, I don't know. Sometimes they just don't seem as impressive. I mean, I look at like again, it's kind of hard to make the comparison because I was talking about how Daredevil was grounded and Iron. I just mentioned Iron Fist was a little more mystic, but I forgot the Hand from Daredevil and by extension the Defender series. Yeah, they were pretty supernatural as well. And so I guess I really did like that because it's supernatural yet grounded. Um, so I guess like in a way compared to the Hand, the Flag Smasher seems a little weak, but they do have Super Soldier Serum to, I guess, even the odds or make the up the ante um, of the stakes involved. So they are, like I said, they're pretty interesting. I mean, it's just I think the people who are playing the lead roles of the people in the Flag Smashers leave a little to be desired, other than Carly. Like the other guys, they're kind of forgettable. I think so far they are a little bit dropping the ball on those characters, and maybe that's by design. We know Marvel tends to yet let their villains be supporting characters, or they're not there to be. They like to have their villains support the hero, basically in terms of storytelling. Um, they push their heroes, and that's actually a great formula that has been working. So I think it's the same thing. We're supposed to be focusing on Bucky and Sam. But sometimes you gotta give a stronger villain, in my opinion. I guess that's the bottom line. Which again, the Netflix shows pretty much did that every time. So Marvel stepping into their TV world for the first time, Marvel Studios with Kevin Feige's direction, you see a lot of that carryover of his philosophy. So there you go. Like they may need to work on getting their villains over a little bit more. To use wrestling terminology, uh, which I feel is very applicable to a lot of stuff. Pushes in getting over, those are wrestling terms. And I'm a wrestling nerd in that regard. Yeah, it's a great analogy. They don't really push their heels. Listen, now I am talking wrestling. They're bad guys. They're villains as well as they could. They've done better in the movies, but I guess, like I said, this is really Marvel Studios' second TV outing. WandaVision was kind of a different thing anyway. It was looking like Wanda was the villain, so that worked where you didn't see a push of a strong villain, even with Agatha being revealed in the last 2 episodes. It worked fine. This one, again, so that's one of my gripes now. I'm actually thinking about this right now. Uh, one of my flaws of the show so far, being it's almost over, that they never developed a strong villain up to this point. Although Zemo, let's talk about Zemo next. Um, as a character, yeah, the dude is growing more compelling with each episode. Like for whatever reason, like when they're having those dialogues, when they're back at the wherever there is their stand, like I get captivated listening to this dude talk. His accent is pretty cool. He's speaking with that like kind of raspy whisper, but he's like dropping knowledge, and he's really showing how tactical he is in his thinking. He is a smart freaking dude, and so that's impressive. Like, I think will be nice coming out of this is Marvel Studios really locks Daniel Bruhl in for some long term, reappearances, because he, I mean, he showed great potential in Civil War, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, he's really nailing it and cementing himself, which is dope considering Civil War is in 2016, and of course they shot this in 2020/21. Um, Well, no, I mean 19/20, right? Is that right? Yeah, late 2019, and then they had to pick it back up in what, summer of 2020. So that, look at that. That's like a 3.5 to 4 year gap from him picking his character back up, and he's right where he left off. One of my favorite scenes in the entire episode, and actually, I hope I'm not mixing this up with episode 3. Yeah, it's episode 4. Is they're trying to find. I mean, you know what I do like also about this show, and basically, like I said, Zemo is the one who's the central part of this aspect. Is detective work, kind of like, finding people and getting new info on where is this happening. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the buddy cop thing. So they're kind of acting like cops, investigators, detectives, and then they get into, but then it's on a global scale. Um, so it's not your normal criminals you're after. And then, of course, as I said, the Flag Smashers have this gray area as far as their cause, their motivation, being something that they feel they're standing up for the little people because they've been wronged by the government. Um, they're just going about it the wrong way, which was a conversation between Sam and Carly. I'm not going to get right into that right now, but that was a good conversation. But let me go back to what sets that up. Actually, is they're trying to get a location for Madani, Doña Madani's funeral. They found out that this woman was influential and impactful, instrumental in their movement. She passed away, and they're having a memoriam for her. But yeah, Zemo's ability to go into the city, um, which again, as far as sets and locales, I do like that part of it too. It gives you this just off the totally off the what we've seen in the MCU. This is, again, I always end up having this moment where it's hitting me how brilliant the MCU, their their objectives. It's almost like they write things on a whiteboard. We want to continue to do this, and then let's figure out how do we do those things. You can tell they want to have this. They want to constantly push the envelope or expand the borders of where the MCU can exist. That's a perfect way of putting it. And this is what has them so far ahead of DC. It's not even funny the more I think about it. And it's not because DC can't do this. I'm just saying you're taking too long to even get started in your own backyard with your universe or your characters. It's always something. Your movies aren't as good. Your characters aren't uh, connecting. Your casting is good but not great. You know what I mean? And you get directors and movies that are being written poorly. Things like that. And of course, this freaking studio of Warner Brothers interfering, which I'll always say has a whole lot to do with all the other things I just said. Their interference causes all this poor uh, snowball of trickle down. You know what I mean? So because of that, they can't even get out the starting gates properly in their own yard, much less go start expanding and begin in other places. You see what I'm saying? So um, yeah, the MCU has been now in Africa. It's been on Asgard. It's been in another dimension with Doctor Strange. It's been in a quantum realm. You see what I'm saying? It's been in another far, far out in the galaxy for Guardians of the Galaxy. You see what I'm saying? And then a little bit of that also with Captain Marvel. And then yet they've been right in New York or right in wherever the heck Iron Man was living. Was it Cali? Was he like back and forth bi-coastal? You know what I mean? So now we've got this stuff taking place, or yeah, for that matter, they've been to Sokovia and things like that, and it's only going to get more when you start bringing in the X-Men and Doctor Doom and things like that. But yeah, so you have all this stuff taking place. Oh, we've been in a 60 or a retro sitcom bubble now as well, But this show taking place in these little pocket European, uh, you know, Eastern European, or whatever you want to call it, countries and villages and things like that is dope. So getting back to that point, Zemo going up to the kids and giving them candy and all that stuff. It's just brilliant. He's singing a little song because he knows that area and all this stuff. So he's like, well, at least I got the impression he's familiar with it. And then he gets info from the little girl, but then tells the little girl that those guys are bad guys. But I just thought that scene was slick, and it just Zemo's just cunning and smart and very strategic, methodical with his. I mean, this is a guy who did plot, I guess, for years, um, without losing focus, single-mindedness to tear down the Avengers. And he did it. So it's like to an extent. So he's nothing to play with. Like he is a dangerous person. But yeah, his moments where he has those conversations with them, it's like detective work. And then, uh, just watching him trying to put up with him, tentatively dealing with him, trepidation and everything is well done. The chemistry between the three is great. You really do feel like the history between Zemo and Bucky and Sam for that matter. Like these people have encountered each other in a very major way in the Civil War. So, um, nice flashback scene too. Oh yeah, the scene right at the beginning where we get to see the White Wolf, Bucky, when he's in Wakanda. That moment by the fire where Io basically tests him by reading off those trigger words, and he didn't go into his trance. He didn't turn into the Winter Soldier. I thought that was dope. I mean, he teared up, and it was an emotional moment. I think that was well done. Great way to just sum that up in a pretty, again, emotional, dramatic, and impactful, pretty short scene. These are the things that I continuously credit Marvel Studios in doing as producers and directors and writers and performers. Again, everybody seems to be on the same page. Let's get this. Let's capture this right here. Nothing more, nothing less. Some of my critiques of Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League, is like, yeah, that doesn't always happen. Didn't always happen for me watching that movie. Where you can we just get it all right here? Can actor, director, cameraman, can y'all all, dialogue, whoever wrote it, can y'all make it all work right here? It doesn't have to be drawn out. Is there going to be a stupid slow motion or weird, an unnecessary, an unnecessary little element, and that just takes you out of the moment. This was a good example where that did not happen. So that was a great, powerful moment because we really haven't seen that per se. Um, it would still be cool to even see them tap into some flashbacks of the process of how he got to that point. How did they get that crap out of his head? And I can imagine they will. Maybe he pops up in a flashback scene on the Wakanda series that's coming up, or in Black Panther 2. Um, but yeah, getting a little dose of that, a little insight and a peek into how that happened, or that conclusion of that was great. Great, great moment. Wasn't anything I would have expected in this show. So that was a treat. Then, so yeah, fast forward. Once the John Walker and Battlestar show up on the scene, things are gonna just get this. That's the thing that's been really. It's like funny. It's like a comedic element that's not, I don't think it's meant to be comedic, but you can't help but watch it and get a little chuckle every time these dudes show up. It's weird. It's like, for me, it's been like a chuckle, but it's also a little bit of tension because, again, the anticipation of how this dude's gonna go off the deep end. You're just like, and it just seems like he's gonna mess stuff up because he's just, again, in it over his head. They're both in over their heads. So they show up on the scene, and of course, yeah, he always wants to come in and say, "No, I'm taking this guy. I'm taking Zemo. I'm taking over." Blah blah blah. Um, and to rewind, Dora Milaje, Io tells Bucky, "You've got 8 hours. I'll give you that. Get what you need from it because the 8 hours are coming for him." So those 8 hours expire, and they all end up in that one place where they've been um, headquartering themselves, and that's where the fight takes place that I talked about, the scuffle, so to speak. Now, of course, it actually kicks off because John Walker, in his arrogance and obliviousness to who the Dora Milaje is, he's making comments like, "If you could just put your pointy sticks down," so he's just totally underestimating what it is they're doing. Um, so again, that was well done. I mean, it felt a little forced, his little cockiness and his condescending remarks. But then I had to think, I mean, well, why wouldn't he sound like this? This is a white American soldier who probably don't know a damn thing about what Wakanda or the Dora Milaje is. I mean, obviously he would have heard of them because of Black Panther. You would guess, but you know what I'm trying to say. He's not familiar, deeply understanding who it is he's looking at. That's like the inside joke. We all are looking like, oh, you don't, and so are they. Bucky and Sam are just like, okay, if you want to go there, and probably Zemo as well. He's familiar with them probably. Um, these are worldly, world traveled, a little more knowledgeable what's going on out here. So yeah, long story short, Dora Milaje handles John Walker in Battlestar. I keep forgetting his name. Is it Lamar? I think. And it's just funny to watch because they're just, Bucky and Sam are just like, but eventually they have to step in. And that's where their, little scuffle takes place. And of course, as I said, Zemo's looking like, well, I'm gonna just slip on up out of here. I'm trying to remember what happened prior to that, or this is before or after. Forgive me if my sequence is out of order, but because I'm thinking, was that after John Walker hit Zemo in the head with that shield? Because was that the scene where he woke up with his drink and putting his cold towel on his head? Was that the same scene that Dora Milaje showed up? I guess it's not that important. So if I am out of order, I'm just really highlighting my thoughts on certain scenes. We get to that conversation between Carly and Sam. Um, it was interesting because I was kind of sitting there like, I really wish. There were moments where I wanted to speak for Sam because I keep thinking, man, dude, you're just saying this the wrong way. Like, you're trying to make her feel more at ease. And same thing there. I knew that something was going to go wrong there. Maybe that's well, I can't say that's the fourth predictability moment because I'm talking about things I predicted before the episode even started. I still haven't thought of the fourth one. Um, but during that episode, knowing that John Walker's there, I'm just like, yeah, this dude's gonna lose his patience, and he just feels like he has to be in control. But that conversation was going well, and there were certain things that were being said between the two of them where I'm kind of like, come on, can y'all make them say something that makes them a little bit more on the same page? Because it's like Sam was kind of talking around the point, in my opinion. And then he finally said something, I can't remember what it was, that was like, okay, now you said something that could make me believe that y'all are trying to realize that you're not that far apart in your opinions. If that makes sense. In other words, that scene seemed to be for the purpose of creating a somewhat of an understanding or a bond between Sam and Carly. Crazy coincidence I just thought about. iCarly, anybody familiar with that show? Sam and Carly. Anyway, yeah, I have a daughter, and that show was funny as heck actually. But I had a daughter grew up during the heyday of that show, and I was actually a fan of it. It was a good show. But yeah, when you think about that, it was supposed to be this bond forming between them, or somewhat of an understanding. I just felt like the dialogue was falling a little flat to make me believe they were coming to some kind of understanding. But overall, I guess the moment as a whole was kind of well done. And then, of course, John Walker messes up because he's like, hey, I just got to go in here. We're going to stop this. And he tries to go in there and arrest her, which makes her think she was being set up with this conversation to soften me up. I felt bad because, yeah, it's like, dang it, dude, he's making progress, and now you just killed it. So they get into a little bit of fight. And, again, they got super soldier serum in them, and then she's running around with the last of it attached to her on a belt or whatever. Um, oh yeah. So then she runs away while they're kind of there's obviously confusion in terms of Sam didn't want John Walker stepping in and trying to apprehend her, so they're almost fighting each other. Plus her, henchmen, whatever, come in and they're fighting them. So she kind of gets away, but Zemo pops up, starts shooting at her. That was kind of crazy. This dude's like, I don't give a crap. He hates super soldiers. So this dude's taking just straight shots at her, hits her a couple times, and then he pops up on uh, the super soldier serums. Yeah, they fall off of her as she flips over a table, trying to get away from him, and then he busts all of them. So yeah, okay, so right, so he busts all of them. Then um, John Walker hits him with the shield, and that's how he steps on. He comes on the scene, steps into the area and sees that there's still one left. Of course, he picks that up and puts it in his pocket. So I guess that was earlier in the episode. Yes. So that did happen before the Dora Milaje showed up. Because Carly ends up getting away, um, which I forget how, but the good guys in Zemo all go back to, and that's where they have their conversation, I believe, and then the Dora Milaje show up. There's a fight there, Zemo escapes. So then you have a conversation, another one between which was foreshadowing of John and Battlestar talking about would you take the serum, man, if you had a chance, which was interesting because you had a parallel of their conversation like that, and then Zemo asked Sam would he have ever taken the serum, and Sam, he easily said no. So that was a good conversation too. Great scene there between Zemo and Sam. So it's like there's some really good dialogue, like this philosophical. Um, they're not beating you over the head, but they're having a message in a lot of the dialogue. Like they are being consistent in establishing and furthering and substantiating and building the theme of the show, which is about what do you would what is it to try to enhance your abilities. Um, if it was something that you could get from a bottle, And should anybody be doing that at all? Like, there's all the pros and cons of it, and you know, we know Zemo hates it. So again, that's the funny part. He's a villain, but in actuality, his position is probably there's a lot of merit to his position. He's like he don't believe this should happen at all. So if you're a good guy super soldier or a bad guy super soldier, now I don't know how long he's going to continue to feel that way. See, I actually thought that while he was stepping on them, or when he first walked up to them and was looking at them, I thought he might have took what might have been it was going to pick up one of them. But I had to remember, it's like he's not he's anti that. So yeah, when he starts stepping, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, shoot, okay. He is being consistent. Like he's not with this. I still wonder though, like, are they because Zemo? I'm not that familiar with him in the comics, or whether he has any like superhuman abilities, or is he just really intelligent, which is fine. You know, it's Lex Luthor. But see, I do know throughout the history of Lex Luthor, you know, he's done different things at different times to try to enhance his power. Whether it was, you know, coming up with a suit. You know, I remember the infamous action figure that I had from the 80s where he has it's like a green suit with pink gloves and boots. Very strange outfit. And he's like buff, but he was some power suit he created to try to deal with Superman. And I think that that was something derived from either the comic books, but definitely from the cartoon, because the toys, action figures, were based on the cartoons. So yeah, you know, I don't know. Zemo may end up doing something like that. Uh, I don't know. I wouldn't have a problem if he doesn't. But part of me just feels like I have a hard time believing he's not going to at some point inherit or embody some kind of, you know, power, superpowers, or whatever you want to call them. But anyway, so John Walker, yeah, and you know, he's at this point he's realizing I've been disrespected. I keep getting my ass handed to me by super soldiers. And yeah, and then he even said, I think he said it, or Lamar or Battlestar, or one of them is like they weren't even super soldiers. Like he's shaking his head, like, what is going on out here? I'm just getting beat up by people left and right. Which is all, you know, that's all you need to know about the potential for him to just say, you know, I'm gonna take this serum. I mean, it was good enough for Steve Rogers. I gotta do this, and again, it's like this, not purely selfish reasons at all. It's like I need a help. I need a I need a boost. I need an edge to really fulfill this Captain America role. Um, so we don't see him take it, but all of a sudden, by the next time you see a fight, which is actually when they track, oh, this is what happened. Carly gets herself stitched up, comes up with a plan to call Sarah, Sam's sister, and you know get into a conversation. Which I was kind of like, how the heck does she have his number? So that was a little bit of plot convenience. But she calls her, you know, let's get that out there. That's kind of like, hmm. But am I about to say this episode was trash because of it, or really spend a lot of time? But be noted that was like, come on now. So she just, I mean, we see that on shows all the time now. People just make it seem like so easy to call a person that you don't know at all. How would you get their number? Anyway, maybe there's something I'm missing. Leave it in the comments. If there's something I'm missing, is how she would have had access to get in contact with her. Or did she just simply, I don't know, look her up on the internet? I don't know. Point is, she calls her and more or less, you know, slickly blackmails, which, you know, she says she was never done anything to her. She just needed to get Sam's attention and let him know she was serious. But again, like I said earlier, a while back, those are they're embodying some terrorist behaviors. It's like that's still with my grace. It's still kind of crazy to be doing stuff like that. And Sam did not appreciate it. Like, well, you calling my sister now? We doing it like that? Huh? So you know, she asked him to come along. Bucky's like, no, I'm going with you. You know what? Now let me just quickly get this in here. We saw some background on Bucky with him trying to make good with his checklist and the Yori, I think his name was. I mean, now again, there's only 2 episodes left, so now I'm wondering, are we gonna get any closure or finality or follow up even on that scenario? Which I guess you probably will, probably at some point in episode 6. My guess is this show is gonna close out on more of a quiet note where he does go back and maybe has a heart to heart deep revelation moment with Yori about what he did. Maybe by the end of episode 5, but somewhere in episode 6, and then same with Sam. So it almost like they go back home, handle their home life, so to speak, their business, and then you kind of feel like, well, there's the end of it. But then there's going to have to be a, cliffhanger to lead us into wherever the next movie goes. And I'm still waiting for some tie-in to Black Widow, but I wouldn't know what that is because Black Widow don't come out till July. But um, there's one more point I'm going to make about the next 2 episodes in just a second. But yeah, so when John Walker shows up, he finds his own way of tracking down where they are, which again they don't really explain. Plot convenience. I mean, they're supposed to be meeting somewhere undisclosed or whatever, but yet here they find him on the radar, and then quick shot of Sharon Carter who's tracking John Walker. So that's interesting. And then Sam called in another favor with her, and she was giving him. I got to go back and watch that dialogue. She was talking to him about the power broker's upset. Yeah, that's another thing. The power broker contacted Carly, and was talking some big talk. So this revelation who the power broker is going to be probably key to episode 5. Um, Here's the thing, and I'm about to kind of maybe spoil this right now because there are things floating around my mind. There was rumors. I don't know if y'all are familiar with this, but there was a quick rumor that really never got a lot of follow up. And I read an article just yesterday or the day before. It was yesterday. Apparently, Malcolm Spellman is hinting at a cameo in episode 5 that's huge, and it's someone we've never seen depicted in the MCU before, something like that. Right now, I'm tying this to an old rumor, and I'm thinking about this power broker. It's going to be some person who's going to show up. I mean, it sounds like the power broker is probably the character that Spellman is talking about, in other words. I don't know if any of y'all heard this, but there was rumors earlier this year or late last year that Al freaking Pacino was going to be in some sort of Marvel project. I think this might be it. I mean, can you imagine the gangster of all gangsters, Al Pacino, playing the power broker? I mean, I have no inside information on this, but it's just dawning on me right now. In the article I read yesterday, unlike the so-called hints at somebody popping up in WandaVision, this article I was reading from Malcolm Spellman sounded like, no, this is going to be legitimately a surprise cameo that is going to blow people's minds. Um, and that makes sense, man. I bet you it's Al Pacino. Al Pacino. Now, who the power broker is as far as a Marvel character, because the way I interpret this article is it is a character, as I just said a few seconds ago, who has yet to be depicted in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or I guess in Marvel movies at all, which makes me think it's a character of comic book lore, and it's not a comic book character named the Power Broker, if you should follow me. So it's like he's going to be playing somebody, a Marvel character, and that Marvel character is acting as the Power Broker. So, Al Pacino. I never really heard any follow up on it, but if that is true, that is gonna be nuts. And I could see it. Like I'm thinking about the way he was threatening Carly. I can't remember if it was on the phone or a text message. I gotta watch the episode again. I'm gonna watch it when I go home again. But yeah, so it's like, yeah, that will be dope. Um, that being said, we get the scene. John Walker shows up. This time, this dude's got a little more fight in him. And he's throwing people around and kicking people. And it's like he bends a piece of metal. And that's when it's like, me and my lady were watching it. And she was like, wait a minute, how's he doing that? I said, well, he took that serum. Because she was kind of in and out paying attention. Um, Unfortunately, my man, Battlestar, yeah, because he had already got his ass handed to him earlier, was like knocked out, and they left him. This dude gonna wake up, or did they tie him up or something? Yes, they had him tied up. Yeah, he wakes up, he gets himself loose. He wants to keep coming in there, getting in the fight. His character is kind of a sad. I want to say borderline pathetic, but it's representative. It's actually a representation of what you could really see happening. Like this dude is so convinced that he's a good soldier, and his boy is the Captain America, and he wants to be there for him. And again, you just really, whatever that is, you're just not smart enough. You're too oblivious, naive, overconfident, patriotic. You know what I'm saying? Self-righteous, or not even self-righteous, but what I mean, you feel like you're so right. You're righteous indignation. That phrase that you just aren't realizing you should not be doing this. And he gets kicked or punched so hard he flies into a pillar and bangs, and it looked like he just basically crushed something immediately, his skull, spine, and he looks like he's like dead instantly. And I saw that coming. So maybe that was the fourth one, that I knew that dude was gonna die. Yeah, maybe that's the fourth one. That kind of makes sense. Yeah, I knew that dude was gonna die. uh in fact, yes, I did. I knew that his death was gonna be the breaking point for John Walker. So for right now, I'm gonna say that was the fourth predictability moment that I knew would happen in this episode. Um, so of course, that is what happens. John Walker gets pissed. He's now using his super serum abilities, chasing down these cats, while Bucky and Sam are doing the same thing. It's like it's a moment that was turned out Carly wanted to ask Sam to join them, um, and it all went wrong because John Walker showed up again. They had him. Sharon was monitoring him, and she, I guess, radioed Sam or Bucky, one of them, on their magical Marvel earpieces, which actually they incorporated into Justice League. So it's like, I think that's perfect. Like, they've always kind of given suspension of belief that every one of these movies in the Avengers, started out with Tony Stark being able to, or I guess Shield, Nick Fury supplies everyone with an earpiece. So that's how you just see them always talking to each other. Because even as a kid, when I would play my superhero figures, and you have these big battle scenes, and everybody's all spread out, like you'd always want to, like, how the heck can everybody just be able to talk to each other? It's like, what? You have to figure something out. So it's one of the most acceptable plot conveniences, but it is definitely one. And again, we saw it in Justice League, and of course, because it's just going to have to be that way. Because that you can't. That's the cool part, is for them to constantly be able to talk to each other. So you have to make some feasible way that they're always able to talk to each other. Um, yeah, so they realize he's on his way there, so they were kind of prepared for him. Um, which made for a great action scene. The action sequences again have been just really dope. Um, did I talk about? Well, that would have been episode 3. I don't know if I talked about Zemo's dancing. I probably did. It just crossed my mind. as far as just thinking about scenes that I'll be always remembering about this series so far. The series has created a lot of, to me, memorable MCU moments. Uh, so yeah, he gets out there. John Walker chases the guy down, catches him on the steps, beating, and pretty much beating his ass now because he's got that power. And then he takes that shield and kills the dude. That's how the episode ends. So it's like, what next? Um, so yeah, the one thing I wanted to talk about in episode 5 just did that I think it's already supposed to be a big reveal in episode 5, so I can't wait. The anticipation is really high now that it ends with high anticipation anyway, because what do you do next now with this true loose cannon of a Captain America? We don't know where Zemo went. The thing with Sharon is still sketchy. Still got to meet the power broker, and then we still got to have an episode 6. Um, so at this point, I'll just say, for me, it's not even predictions, but more so hopes that I hope to see now with 2 episodes left. I'm hoping to see John Walker. But just I started out talking about him. I think, like I said, this dude has a potential to be a pretty fascinating character in a segment of the MCU. Um, this kind of line straddler who's really more dark than he realized. Um, yeah, so if he becomes that kind of guy, I think that would be cool to keep around. As well as I want to see. So I want to see something happen there. Not him dying. I want to see him continue, and then I want to see Zemo. I don't know what it is I want to see from him, but I want to see a true villain moment. There we go, from Zemo. Um, that's pretty much it, honestly. And like I said, I want to see more. Sam has been really developed or fleshed out in this series. I want to see a little more something with Bucky, because I still think they gotta go back and do something about his adjustment to society. Before we see him in the next team up flick or whatever that may be. Because that's what's really interesting about this. After the series is over, and I guess I'll talk more about this as we get to episode 6, is where do Bucky and Sam go after the series? But I won't talk about that now because we still have 2 more episodes where we may get more insight into that. So that's my concern, Um, again, because it just feels like this thing is coming to a close really quick. And I can't wait to see Black Widow, because I'm just the MCU appetite is really back on. You know what I'm saying? So we shall see. In episode 5, my prediction though is Al Pacino. Loose prediction. It's going to be that guy who's playing the power broker, and I think that's pretty much it. I just have continued to enjoy Zemo, um, John Walker, in his dislikability is becoming more something that I can appreciate. Sam and Bucky are awesome. Great to see the Dora Milaje. And, it was funny them trying to depict the little scene of Wakanda in their little budget. It's like, and it didn't really look like Black Panther version of the movie version of Wakanda, but, it was cool. And, said Carly is interesting character. Her crew is take him or leave him. And Sharon was good the last, when we saw her. She played a small role. I'm guessing, yeah, she's going to be majorly involved in this next episode. Because I think the Power Broker and John Walker are going to be the central plot points of episode 5, with a little bit of further development on what is Zemo about to do next. Then all of that shit's gonna be front and center for episode 6, at least for the first half of it. Um, or they may try to cover all three of Zemo, Power Broker, and John Walker in episode 5. So I think episode 5 really may be the one that has the most full content. A lot of you know things being tied up, and Sharon's going to be, like I said, an important part of that because of whatever connection she has to the Power Broker. So that being said, I'm going to check out, y'all. Appreciate you listening, checking in on my thoughts. So leave your thoughts on anything I spoke on. Please like the video. Please share the video and subscribe to the channel. I'm actually about to do a review for Godzilla vs. Kong. Like literally, is when I'm done with this. Take a little break, have some water, a little breakfast, brunch, whatever. But yeah, if you see me looking like I have the same clothes on, it's gonna be because I'm shooting this in just momentarily. Maybe an hour or so, even, because I do have some things I'm gonna try to run around and do. But it will be coming today. I'll just put it like that. I'll be recording it today, posting it today. Godzilla vs. Kong. But yeah, this is my review on episode 4 of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Hope you enjoyed and appreciated some of the things, thoughts I had. Like I said, leave some comments for sure, and let's engage. Let's get ready for episode 5. Peace. Soul of a Nerd, Brother Phil. I'm out. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna throw one more point out there. Is well, I don't know. I'm not even gonna say that. I'm gone. Peace.